Alright, so this is the second video in our Intro to OnShape series. So in this video we're going to talk about how to create the first part that's in our model creation assignment. And we're going to create it in two steps. So the basic steps that we've been talking about in class are this. So we have our steps to CAD are you have to make a sketch, you got to dimension the sketch, and then you're going to extrude that sketch. So the first sketch that we're going to do here is our outline of this guy right here. So in the last video we talked about how I want you guys to organize this series, and we've created a folder. So make sure you have that folder created. If you don't know how to do that, go back, watch the last video. And then we're going to create our document in that assignment. So we're going to say this is Intro to OnShape Part 1. Okay. And so when you save it, now you should be, that will automatically save in that folder for OnShape. So we're going to make our first shape here, and we're going to start with our outline. Okay. So we have our sketch, and we're going to hit the front view, and I'm used to using Autodesk where it will automatically orient the plane that you're working in to face you. So I like to do that in OnShape as well. And then we're going to start off with making our outline. So our steps to CAD, just to review, make a 2D sketch. So we're going to do our sketch here, and I'm going to do it in using a corner rectangle or a 2-point rectangle. And the reason I'm using this is because it will put in all the constraints automatically that I need, as far as like keeping things proportionate, keeping them parallel, keeping them at right angles where they need to be right angles, and then doing the same thing for our shoulders here. So again, we're making this part on the left, and we're just doing the outline of the shape. And so as I hover over things, you can kind of see it snapping to it. That means it's lining up to it and it's constrained to it, which just means that it's locking to it. Okay. And so now I've got my last little bit down here. And so you can see the outline of our part that we drew, but we've got some extra lines up here. So in the previous example that I did of this part, I did it in a different way where we had to constrain and make things parallel and perpendicular to each other with our lines. We don't have to worry about that so much in this, with this method of creating our outline. It's just a different way of doing it. There's a million ways that we could make this part, and this just happens to be the one that I'm most comfortable with right now. So now we're going to use our trim tool, and we're going to trim off those edges, those unnecessary lines. So we want to get rid of those unnecessary lines, and then we'll end up with our part, our outline of our part. Okay, and I do have to click on it twice because there are two boxes there that we made. There were two lines on top of each other, so you got to click on it. You got to click on them twice until that line's completely gone. Okay, so now that I have my general outline done, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the drawing that I made, and I'm going to start putting all the dimensions in that I put in on this drawing. So I've got my overall dimension, and that's the one I like to start with, is from that line to that line, and that should be 4 inches. Okay, and then you have your little dimensions going from here to here, and then from here to here. So, and that one, those two should be 0.5. Now in Autodesk, we can use an equal sign. I don't know if we can use formulas in here. I think we can actually. I don't know. I'm going to figure that one out later. Okay, so we have 0.5. Okay, so 0.5, and then from here to here should also be 0.5. Okay, and I'm just pulling those from the drawing that we did in class. So we have 0.5, 0.5 from there to there, 0.5 from there to there, and then we're going to just keep going up the part. So this one should be 1.5, and that should be 1. This should also be 1. And then this should be 1. And I am going quickly, and the reason I'm going quickly is because this is YouTube. You can stop it, rewind it, do whatever you need to do. So I'm going to go fast to keep my videos short, and then you guys can pause or rewind as you need. So I've got my part fully dimensioned all the way around. I don't have to put a last dimension in here because I've got my full dimension of 4 all the way across. And so 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1, so this must be 1 from this line to this line, so I'm good to go. I'm going to say the little green check or finish sketch, and now we're ready to extrude. So when you extrude, it's best to extrude from an angle so you can see that extrusion happening in 3 dimensions. So now you're going to hit your extrusion type, which is going to be just a regular extrusion in this case, and we're going to put our measurement in that we got for our extrusion, so the thickness of that part. Okay, and that should be 2.5 inches. Okay, so I've got the extrusion done, hit finish sketch, and so it's consumed that sketch. So this sketch belongs to that extrusion. So the second part of this part, though, has that little shelf on there. And now, while I didn't require that shelf in class, I'm going to build this fully part. I'm going to build this part fully for everyone. And as far as requiring it in future classes, I'm probably going to require it. So I just didn't require it because it's distance learning for today's class, but in future classes, you are going to be required to have to do that. So sketching, and you're going to start a sketch on the side of the part, okay? And we didn't go over exactly how to do the second extrusion in class, but there are 2 types of extrusions, or 2 types of dimensions that we're going to apply here. And we're going to get our shelf in there first before we start applying those dimensions. So we have our little shelf shape, which is just a rectangle, and there are 2 types of dimensions that belong on it. There's the feature dimensions, which are dimensions that tell us how large the object is, whether it's, you know, vertically or horizontally, and then the placement dimensions, and that tells us how far is an edge from another edge. And sometimes you can wrap those 2 dimensions in 1 dimension, sometimes not. In our drawing, we want to stick with what they wrote in the drawing, so we're going to say the shelf itself is 1.5 inches across, so we're going to hit our dimensioning tool, and that shelf is 1.5 inches across. And then our shelf vertically, or the thickness of that shelf, is 0.25 inches. And I'm just getting that dimension, I'm reading that dimension from right here. Okay, where it says 0.25, it's got the arrows pointed to the outside. It's got 1.5 across. So now we have our shelf dimension correctly, but the question is, where is that shelf in relation to the rest of the part? So we actually have to dimension where this edge is from this edge. So that edge is 0.5. And then from the top very part of the part to the top of the shelf should be 0.75. And so now we know where this part is placed in relation to the larger part. Okay, so we're going to hit OK. It's ready to extrude, and that extrusion is 0.75. We can see that extrusion running in this direction, so that's 0.75. Okay. So if you guys are wondering what is due for this section, you are going to take a snip of your drawing. So my screenshot, if I had a snip of both drawings or both screens here, it would be a snip of this right here, showing my hand drawing, showing the part file of that hand drawing. Okay, so you're going to show me both for each of the parts. And I'm done with this part, so I'm going to shut the video down.